Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I welcome you all to this session on healthcare delivery system in Pakistan. This is the first part of my discussion on the healthcare delivery system in Pakistan. My name is Dr. Fuad Hamid Rai. Ladies and gentlemen, before the end of the session, you should be able to understand what is healthcare delivery, what is healthcare delivery system, what are health needs, and what is the burden of disease. BOD stands for burden of disease. We need to understand quality healthcare because the main purpose of the healthcare system is to deliver quality healthcare services. And then we will be discussing basic health units and rural health centers. You can see in this slide, this gives an overview of the healthcare delivery system in Pakistan. The healthcare delivery system is divided into two major components. One is the public sector, and the other is the private sector. The public sector is further divided into the federal government and the provincial governments after the 18th Amendment, although healthcare has become a provincial subject, but still a lot of people are being treated through the federal government health system, which comprises of the Ministry of Defense. We have military healthcare system and cantonment boards in Pakistan. They have combined military hospitals, Air Force hospitals, Navy hospitals. Then we have hospitals for paramilitary forces like Rangers. Then we have the Ministry of Health and other ministries and some autonomous government agencies which have their own healthcare facilities. And then in the federal government, we have some research institutes and some vertical programs are also managed through the federal government. In the provincial government, we have our provincial health departments in Punjab. Like now, the health department has been bifurcated into two parts. One is the primary and secondary healthcare department, and the other is specialized healthcare and medical education department. And then, as far as service delivery is concerned, we have different levels of healthcare, and it trickles down from tertiary care hospitals to DHQ hospitals to Tehsil headquarter hospitals to rural health centers. And finally, we have the basic health units, and then we have MCH centers and dispensaries, both in urban and rural areas. Then we have the private sector. The private sector is further divided into a total commercial healthcare sector. Then we have the not-for-profit sector. We have charitable hospitals, and so on and so forth. As far as healthcare delivery system in Pakistan is concerned, Pakistan has a mixed health system that includes, as we discussed earlier, public, private, civil society, philanthropic contributors, and donor agencies. And in Pakistan, healthcare delivery to the consumers is systematized through four modes of preventive, promotive, curative, and rehabilitative services. Uh, we need to clearly understand that what is the goal of healthcare delivery system, and the goal of any healthcare delivery system should be to foster optimal health outcomes by providing cost effective patient centered quality care with a service emphasis. And healthcare delivery systems should be designed to motivate patients and healthcare providers to make decisions consistent with this goal. As far as the levels of healthcare system in Pakistan are concerned, we start off from the primary level, and as I already mentioned, we have BHUs. BHUs mean basic health units, and then we have dispensaries, we have maternal and child health centers, we have rural health centers, we have family physician clinics, then we have homeopathic clinics, Hakim clinics, and then there are a lot of quacks as well in the community. Although the healthcare commissions, which have been established in different provinces, are working on curbing quackery. Moving from the primary healthcare level upwards, we have the secondary level healthcare facilities. These include the Tehsil headquarter hospitals and the district headquarter hospitals, and then secondary care private and philanthropic hospitals. Since I will be discussing more in more detail the primary healthcare facilities, including BHUs and basic health units in rural health centers. So over here in this slide, I would like to tell you that as far as Tehsil headquarter hospitals are concerned, these have around 60 to 100 beds, depending upon the kind of population exists in that particular Tehsil. And as far as the district headquarter hospitals are concerned, these have beds varying from 120 beds to up to 200 plus beds in different districts. And we have around 300, we have around 35 to 36 district headquarter hospitals in Punjab alone. In Sindh, we call the Tehsil headquarter hospitals as Taluka headquarter hospitals, and then these secondary healthcare facilities have specialist services available in them. Like in Tehsil headquarter hospitals, we have specialists available from around 7 to 12 specialities. We have a medical specialist, we have a surgeon, we have an orthopedic surgeon in certain hospitals, we have a gynecologist and obstetrician, there is a pediatrician, there is an anesthetist, there is an ophthalmologist, a ENT specialist, and similarly in DHQ hospitals the number of specialities increase. And as far as DHQ hospitals are concerned, there are also certain district headquarter hospitals which are teaching hospitals, which are recognized for house job by the Pakistan Medical Commission, previously called as Pakistan Medical and Dental Council. Moving further, we then have the tertiary care hospitals. These are hospitals which are attached either with the medical colleges, or there are some super speciality hospitals. These tertiary care hospitals attached with the medical colleges are general hospitals. They have a range of specialities available over there. But then we also have at the same time some super speciality hospitals, and examples, a few examples are those of cardiology hospitals, liver and kidney transplant hospitals, cancer hospitals, eye hospitals, which are only focused on a particular specialty, obs and gynae hospitals in one of the biggest cities of Pakistan, which is Lahore. We have two gynae teaching gynae hospitals, which are kind of tertiary care super speciality hospitals. One is Lady HSN Hospital and the other is Lady Wellington Hospital. Similarly, we have the Punjab Institute of Cardiology in Lahore, and we have the National Institute of Cardiovascular Diseases in Karachi. And there are other several cardiology institutes or hospitals in different cities. When we talk about the healthcare system or the healthcare delivery system in Pakistan, a very important thing which needs to be considered is the health needs. The health needs of a population are dependent on the burden of disease in that population. BOD stands for burden of disease. And burden of disease helps in determining health needs of the population, which in turn determine the nature of services to be provided at all levels of care. And services must be prioritized to maximize the benefit of health scarce resources. One thing which you need to keep in mind is that there are never going to be enough resources, even in the rich countries. There is always a wish list that you want to have the best possible services. So there would always be a tug of war between the kind of services to be provided and the resources which need to be available to fund those services. So while prioritizing among the type of services, cost and non-cost factors are more importantly equity, which must be kept in mind and given due consideration. At the same time, services must be pro-poor and take seriously into account the issue of equity. Everyone, irrespective of the place where they are living, they should have access to good quality healthcare services. Well, this is, I'm sharing a picture. A few of my students, along with me, visited a primary healthcare facility. The purpose of showing you this picture is that we can have online sessions, we can have live lectures and discussions, but the main thing which you learn is when you visit the primary or secondary or tertiary healthcare facilities. Only then you can go and see that how services are being delivered over there, and that is the place where you can also make suggestions how to improve services. So the main purpose of showing you this picture is that all those of you who are attending this session should also keep in mind that you have to visit primary and secondary healthcare and tertiary healthcare facilities in order to fully understand the healthcare system, either it is in Pakistan or in any other country. Then healthcare quality is an important issue which is discussed everywhere in the world. Once services are in place, either it is the primary or secondary or tertiary healthcare level, the next logical and important question is the quality of care. Because if I would put it in this way, that once services are in place, the next logical and important question is the quality of care that cannot be achieved without defining standards. We need to have benchmarks. Standards can also be called as benchmarks. The standards have two principal objectives, and the first is that they provide a common set of requirements applicable to whole healthcare system. And secondly, they provide a framework for the continuous improvement in overall quality of care. And the ultimate impact of the minimum service delivery standards would be to provide effective and health workforce for the economic development of the country. Here again, I would like to mention something which you need to note down is that governments have established minimum service delivery standards for different level of healthcare facilities. Uh, some primary healthcare facilities, if we talk about the basic health unit or a family physician clinic, the minimum service delivery indicators would be maybe around 26 indicators. Similarly, as we move on to secondary healthcare facilities, the number of indicators increases in Tehsil headquarter hospitals, district headquarter hospitals, and finally in tertiary healthcare hospitals. This is then again a picture with my students. We visited another healthcare facility. It's a government healthcare facility to have first-hand knowledge and first-hand experience of how services are being provided in these facilities. And here, one thing which I would like to share with you is now in some provinces, they also have this health management information system, which is in place even at the primary healthcare facilities level. Uh, when we talk about the healthcare delivery system, there is a terminology DALY, DALYs, which we need to understand, and DALY stands for Disability Adjusted Life Years. Uh, why disability adjusted life years are important? Uh, the importance of the disability adjusted life years is in order to plan services. And what do disability adjusted life years mean? These are the sum of years of potential life lost due to premature mortality and the years of productive life lost due to disability. So you can imagine that it contributes to the productivity of a country. So if the number of years lost to premature mortality or morbidity or disability are reduced, then the productivity of the country will increase. And this is something which we need to focus in our healthcare systems. This is a old chart which I am sharing with you just to give you a flavor of the disability adjusted life years. How do we calculate them? We have divided the diseases into or ailments into four major groups. One is the communicable diseases, non-communicable diseases, maternal and perinatal conditions, and then injuries. And then we have further divided these into diseases. Like in communicable diseases, we have tropical cluster, sexually transmitted diseases or infections, and then childhood cluster related to childhood diseases, respiratory infections, and parasitic diseases. And then the burden of disease is calculated, that what is the burden of disease, and according to that then we can calculate that how many people will be affected, how much productivity of the country will be affected. And this helps us to plan the health services in particular areas. Uh, Moving on to the basic unit at the primary healthcare level, which is the basic health unit. The basic health units normally have two emergency beds, and these serve a catchment population of around 10 to 25,000 population. Well, if you ask me what is on my wish list, I would say that a basic health unit should cater up to a population of 2 to 5,000 people, depending upon the area where the basic health unit is located, because there are certain geographic areas like in Balochistan or in hilly or mountainous areas or in deserts where there would be very scattered population. So even a basic health unit, according to my wish list, could be for a population of 2 to 5,000, so that people can have access to a basic health, at least basic health unit, which is the primary level of health services. But what I am showing you in the slide is that what exists now in Pakistan. As far as the different equipments which are available in the basic health unit, these are variable. These could be a sucker machine, oxygen cylinders, labor room equipment, safe delivery kits. Then there could be autoclave, hospital beds. Only two hospital beds are kept for emergency treatment. Then a glucometer, then a computer, a printer is also available. And now in certain basic health units, a computer operator has also been provided. And I've also visited a few model basic health units where even an ultrasound machine was available. At the basic health unit, if you recall, there are 8 components of primary health care, and one of the components is treatment of minor ailments and injuries. Then we focus on maternal and child health. Then health education is a very important component. Then focusing on good nutrition, availability of contraceptives and family planning services. Then safe water supply availability has to be ensured in the area, availability of essential medicines and availability of essential drugs. So when we talk about essential drugs, this is I'm sharing with you a list of essential medicines which are normally available in basic health units in Punjab. You can go through the list. I won't mention all of the medicines except for highlighting a few like capsule amoxicillin, syrup amoxicillin, then tablet cotrimoxazole, similarly syrup cotrimoxazole, then injections are available, painkillers are available, anti-allergics are available, antipyretics are available, then syrup Vermox to deal with the vermin infestation are available. Then infusion sets, people who have diarrhea or who have cholera or have diarrheal diseases, they can come over for emergency treatment. Then oral rehydration salts are available over there. Then contraceptives, including all kinds of contraceptives like oral pills, injectables, intrauterine contraceptive devices, condoms are available at the basic health units. Then TB drugs are also available, and bandages, cotton, silk, gloves, and all things which are required for treating minor ailments and injuries are available in the essential medicines list of a basic health unit. Moving forward to the staff at a basic health unit, normally it's a medical officer, a lady health visitor, dispenser, a midwife. There could be under training midwives or DIs in a basic health unit, then medical assistants, both male and female health technicians, then a peon and a sanitary worker is available in a basic health unit, and then we also have security guards in some basic health units, position for a security guard. And as far as medical assistants are concerned, previously these used to be medical assistants or medical technicians, but now since the government has introduced BSc honors programs at the university and college level, so 4-year honors degree programs are offered in the field of medical laboratory technology, medical imaging technology, operation theatre technology, nutrition, and a lot of range of other technologies. So at the moment, medical assistants are available, but again, if I talk about my wish list, I would say that medical technologists who can later on also, after doing their BSc honors, can do their MPhil or MS or masters or PhDs. Should be posts should be created at the basic health unit level or the rural health center level, Tehsil headquarter hospital level. Now we have posts available at DHQ hospitals for technologists, and they are also taken in grade 17 in even in far-flung areas of provinces. Then we have the outreach staff at the basic health unit. We have the communicable disease control supervisor, then we have the sanitary inspector, we have the expanded program of immunization vaccinator, and the staff and the rest of the staff also participates in the national immunization days, which are celebrated mainly focusing on polio eradication. Then we have lady health workers of the national program for family planning and primary health care, which are attached with the basic health units in their particular areas, and these lady health workers are supervised by a supervisor who is also a lady health worker, and in some cases could be a lady health visitor. And there are depending upon the population, the number of lady health workers can vary from 10 to even 20 or more in the catchment of a basic health unit. Then the infrastructure at the basic health unit are the rooms for the medical officer, the LHV, room for sanitary inspectors, then room for medical technicians. Then there is a dispensary where medicines are available and medicines are dispensed. Then we have waiting areas, storage areas, vaccination areas. Then, as I've already mentioned, there is a 2 beds emergency available to treat minor ailments and injuries, and antenatal room, and some basic health units also have a delivery room. And then there are staff residences available within the premises of the basic health unit. Moving on from the basic health unit, then we move to the rural health center. The rural health center normally has 20 to 25 beds, and the standard equipments available over here are more than those available at the basic health unit. You can just see in the slide. There could be an ambulance available over there, and then there is a dental unit, ECG machine, autoclave, steam sterilizer is also here, available over here, was also available in the basic health unit. Then there is a operation theatre table, fetal heart detector, then obstetric instrument set is available, then diagnostic equipments like ultrasound, X-ray are also available in rural health centers. Typically, the rural health center had around 20 to 25 beds, and in certain cases could also have 30 beds, and each serves a catchment population of around 100,000 individuals. And this is envisaged as a health facility which is open 24 by 7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Some other standard equipments available at the rural health center, you can go through the list. I've already mentioned X-ray unit, ultrasound. Then there is a operation theatre, ceiling light, general surgery set, air conditioner, operation theatre. Um, Normally, I've also seen in some rural health centers an anesthesia machine available, but since no anesthetist is posted over there, there is no use of an anesthesia machine over there. Normally, if in emergency a cesarean has to be performed over here, spinal can be given, but it is recommended that cesareans should be performed at the SEAL headquarter hospitals or at upgraded rural health centers where a specialist gynecologist is also available. But normally, the staff at a rural health center does not include a specialist gynecologist. The facilities in a rural health center are that there are 20-25 indoor beds available, and separate male and female wards are available, and patients can be admitted overnight and for a few days as well, depending upon the condition of the patient. And of course, if the patient is a bit critical, the patient is then referred to the Tehsil headquarter or district headquarter hospital, or to the tertiary care hospital, as the case may be. And then there is a laboratory in the rural health centers. Lab investigations are performed, and there is an X-ray, ultrasound, dental services are available. Then operation theatre with provision of minor surgeries is also available in the rural health centers, and there is an ambulance, and there is residence for all the staff. As far as the staff is concerned, in a rural health center, we have a senior medical officer, then another junior medical officer or a medical officer. We have a woman medical officer, and we have a lady health visitor, dispenser, dentist, homeopath, hakim. In addition to the staff, we have lab assistants, a dresser, an X-ray technician, vaccinators, more than one also in certain cases, operation theatre attendants. Then we have ward boys, trained eyes, midwives, and under training midwives, and peon and sweepers. So this gives you a pretty good idea that what kind of staff is available at a rural health center. And then as far as outreach is concerned, almost I'm at the end of my today's session. As far as outreach is concerned, we have outreach staff which includes vaccinator and communicable disease control supervisor. I will be with you folks till the end of this session. To answer your questions. And even after that, you can see in the slides on the left hand corner at the bottom, My email address is also there, and even if after the session ends, I'm available to answer your queries or questions, or to guide you regarding the healthcare system of Pakistan. Here, I feel it pertinent to mention that I have tried to give you a flavor of the healthcare system. Even the primary healthcare system is very, very elaborate, and if we go into each and every detail, I can write a complete book on the primary healthcare sector in Pakistan. So I would recommend that you also consult your textbooks or your reference books, so that you can have a much better understanding of the primary healthcare sector. And I've also touched the secondary healthcare sector in this lecture. I have discussed with you Tehsil headquarter hospitals, the number of beds available over there. Similarly, district headquarter hospitals, the number of beds available over there, and the kinds of specialities which are available over there. In Tehsil headquarter hospital, I told you that the number of beds can vary from 60 to even up to 150. And in a district headquarter hospital, the number of beds can vary from 150 to even up to 300 beds. And in certain district headquarter hospitals, even house jobs are available, and even residency programs are approved. Postgraduate doctors who are undergoing postgraduate training in different specialities of surgical and allied, medical and allied ops and gynae, and other specialities can also undergo trainings in these district headquarter hospitals. I end this today's session with a food for thought for you, that just uh, consider yourself living in a rural area. Of course, some of you come from rural areas. You were born and brought up in rural areas, and then you came to urban cities and then joined medical colleges, dental colleges, nursing colleges, allied health sciences colleges, pharmaceutical sciences colleges, and other colleges related to allied health sciences. So you have a very good first-hand knowledge of the kind of services available over there. So when you become professionals, when you graduate from your classes, I would recommend that think about the people who live in rural areas. Think about the people as far as provision of services to them is concerned, who live in hilly and mountainous areas, who live in deserts, who live in far-flung areas in Balochistan, Sindh, Punjab, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, in Gilgit-Baltistan, Azad Jammu and Kashmir, because we need to provide them the minimum standard of services, which also are guaranteed to them through the Constitution of Pakistan. Thank you very much. As I mentioned earlier, I'm available to answer your questions and I will also be available to you later on if you have any queries today, tomorrow, after 1 week, 1 month, whenever you want guidance from me. Thank you very much. Best of luck. Have a great day. Allah Hafiz.